Assalamu alaikum everyone. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ba'd. Always we remember Allah. We begin with praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send our greetings and prayers of peace upon the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So I'm storytelling. Inshallah. All right. Look, let's begin with stories from the past, like distant past. You know how we were talking about Sahaba and Tabi'een? Sometimes we think, they live a dry life. Actually, they lived a very comical life at times. So let's look at, people that we kind of know. Imam Shafi'i, and we're in Malaysia, right? Which is, alhamdulillah, well established upon the madhab of Imam Shafi'i, rahmatullahi alayhi. Ever wonder why? Why is Imam Shafi'i so foundational? Like, why is he so, authoritative? Who is this mountain of a man? There's numerous amazing instances of intellect and wisdom from the life of Imam Shafi'i. You see, as a young boy, his mother, and he was an orphan, he didn't have a father, his mother brought him back from Gaza, Palestine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted its freedom. And she traveled back. He is Qurashi. She's from the tribes of Quraysh. She left Palestine where he was born and went back to Mecca and wanted to raise him to be a alim. And there are authentic hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ where he says that there will be a scholar from Quraysh, يَمْلَأُ الدُّنْيَا عِلْمًا, who will fill the world with knowledge. Right? You're sitting here, way over the other side of the world, right? Full of knowledge that is virtuous, that is attributed to this man. Rahmatullahi alayhi al-Imam al-Shafi'i. So as a young boy, his mother took care in his education. And at around the age of 9, some say 12 years old, he had exhausted all of the scholars in Mecca. There was no one there in Mecca that he could learn from. He had mastered everyone and everything. So the head teacher of Mecca wrote a letter for Imam Shafi'i. He told him, A'lamun nas, the most knowledgeable of people living now who can benefit you is Imam Malik, who lives in which city? Medina. Al-Imam Malik ibn Anas, rahmatullahi alayhi. Take this letter, tell him that I want to be your student, and return this book to him. Now the book of Al-Imam Malik is called Al-Muwatta. At that time, up to the time of Imam Bukhari, which is 300 years later, or 150 years later, no book on the face of the earth was more authentic in terms of the narration of the statements of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam than the book of Imam Malik. Imam Malik, after he wrote his book, he sent a copy to Mecca to the scholars. And he told them, put this copy on the roof of the Kaaba and leave it there for a year before I publish it and let anyone read it. If it is a work that is blessed by Allah, Allah will preserve the book. Can you imagine in the heat, in the sun, in the desert, in Mecca, in the ancient times, ink that is written on parchment, for it to remain preserved in that condition in the open, it would be something that would be divine intervention. And the Imams of Mecca at the time gave the book as it was the day it was written to Imam al-Shafi'i and wrote in the note, قَدْ تَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْكَ, Allah has accepted it from you. Return this back to Imam Malik. Now the journey would take about 12 days on camelback from Mecca to Medina at that time. Imam al-Shafi'i, who's 9 years old, opens the book and begins to read. When we say read, I mean memorize. By the time he traveled from Mecca to Medina, at the age of 9, maybe 12, up to 9 to 12 years old, he memorized all of the Muwatta. In 9 days, in 12 days. All of it. Knocks on the door of Imam Malik. Says, Assalamu alaikum, I have this letter for you. I know I'm only 12, but I want to be your student. Imam Malik, who was alim, la yufta wa malikun fadim. No one can give fatwa if Malik lives in that city. No one's allowed to speak because his knowledge overcomes any adversary who's going to debate him. Imam Malik, it's almost as if he looks down on Imam Shafi'i and says, listen, you need to sit with my students, not even my students, the students of my students. And Imam Shafi'i says, yes, but I have this letter. He says, listen, what have you learned? So Imam Shafi'i says, I know your book. He said, which book? He said, the one that was on the Kaaba that I bring to you back today. He goes, أقرأته, you read it? He says, yeah, yes. He says, what did you understand from it? He says, حفظته عن ظهر قلب. I've memorized it in my heart. The time of Salatul Asr was called the Adhan. He said, بعد العصر اقرأ علي. Read it to me, meaning from your memory. Imam Malik sat with Imam Shafi'i in the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Malik, because he used to sit near the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, near the home of Aisha radiallahu anha, before he would narrate a hadith, he would point and he would say, قال صاحب هذا القبر. The one who inhabits this grave said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Could you imagine? When you narrate hadith, you're in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, the one who's there, who is now in that grave, spoke this word. That's got to shake you. So Imam Shafi'i, from Asr prayer till the next Asr prayer, narrated from memory the whole Muwatta at the age of 9 to 12 years old. Wow. So he became a student of Imam Malik. Now let's start to tell you some stories. One day a man comes to Imam Malik, asks him a question. He says, Ya Imam, who's more beautiful, my wife or the full moon? My wife or Al-Qamar? Imam Malik said, your wife. What do you mean your wife? Look at the moon, man. Look how beautiful it is. This full moon, Badr. People, when they would describe the Prophet ﷺ, they would say, كَانَ وَجْهُهُ كَالْبَدْرِ. His face was like the beautiful moon. If you've been to Saudi Arabia and you travel at night and you stop somewhere where there isn't city lights, halfway in your journey somewhere, sometimes you stop for a rest and it's a full moon light, look up and see how beautiful the moon looks in that desert environment. Something else. So Imam Malik says to him, no man, come on. What? Your wife couldn't be better than the moon. Look at the moon. Imam Shafi'i interrupts and says, can you repeat the question? The man said, I asked Imam Malik, who are you, little one? I asked Imam Malik, who is more beautiful, my wife or the moon? He said, the moon. Imam Shafi'i said, no, your wife is more beautiful. So the man grabs the Shafi'i. He says, where did you see my wife? A Shafi'i, he says, no, I didn't look at your wife. I don't know who your wife is. But Allah tells us in the Quran that He created Bani Adam fi ahsani taqweem. The best of His creation was Bani Adam. So surely, it doesn't matter, even if your wife is not the most beautiful, she will definitely be more beautiful than that moon. And it kind of shows you the way Imam al-Shafi'i would think. A man comes and says to Imam al-Shafi'i, he says, Ya Imam, I'm a poor man. Look at me. Where are the people? Where are they? Who Allah says in the Quran, يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ. They give from their wealth. They share with people who are poor. How come no one's giving me anything? So Imam al-Shafi'i says, those people you're asking about, they're sitting with those who don't ask anyone for anything. Meaning, stop begging, right? The people of charity are with those who don't ask people for anything. They will find Allah will send them those who will meet their needs. It shows you the thought process of an Imam al-Shafi'i. He was a person of intellectual power. We move forward a little bit when Imam al-Shafi'i is living in Baghdad. And there was a great fitna. The Imam at the time, the Khalifa at the time, he was a heretic. Now you would say, a heretic? Yes, he was a person who believed about false teachings as it relates to the religion of Islam. He used to believe that the Quran is not the words of Allah. Allah doesn't speak. And because of his arrogance and his severe punishment of the scholars, many scholars, they would, yes, okay, whatever you say, we'll say it. So when he heard that there were others who rejected this, he heard that Shafi'i said no, Imam Ahmad said no, Imam Malik said no. These great Imams, they're known to us with that title Imam because they were leaders when others fell. They were strong upon the truth. He said, bring them to me. Imam Malik, his arms were put between two horses. And he was asked, is the Quran the word of Allah or did Allah create it? Now if you say the Quran is created, it means it lives and can die. So it's not eternal. And it means you are limiting Allah, that Allah cannot speak. When Allah says in the Quran, وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. Remember how one of the brothers asked about 73 sects? That's one of them. These people who came with these philosophical ramblings. How can the divine speak? Doesn't make sense. But the scholars, they stood firm. No, Allah said He spoke to Musa. And Allah tells us that the Quran, kalamullah. And the Prophet ﷺ said it. So as soon as Imam Malik said, no, I will not say what you just said, he ordered the horses to be pulled. And the arm of Imam Malik, his arms were dislocated. Have you seen the Maliki madhab people, how they pray? How do they pray? Their arms down, not on their chest, not on their stomach. Why do they do that? Because Imam Malik, his arms became immobile. So he used to pray like this, right? That's where, a part of where they get it from, right? He said, bring a Shafi'i. Imam al-Shafi'i, remember we're telling you he's an intelligent young man. He saw this happen, heard of this happen. He said, well, I'm going to find an avenue that frees me from this fitna and will show others how to also save themselves. So this Ma'mun, he brings him up in front of everyone and he says, is the Quran created? So Imam al-Shafi'i holds his hand up, he says, Quran, Injil, Zabur, Torah, all created. The Khalifa, he says, oh, that's good. Not just Quran, everything. All right, you're free to go. And everyone's shocked. Imam al-Shafi'i said, no. My finger is Quran, Injil, Torah, Zabur. All of me as a person is created. The word of Allah is not. So he used his logic. Imam Shafi'i was a person who was not just a literalist. He was a person who could think, who found avenues to escape in the right way and saved many of the ummah from grueling punishment that was being inflicted by that man. So whenever that imam would come and he would test the ulama, what would they all do? They'd follow Shafi'i. They go, Quran, Torah, Zabur, it's all created. Meaning, our fingers. So I go, oh, good. All of you are like a Shafi'i. Used his intellect. Rahmatullahi alayhi. It shows us that the imams that we come to appreciate, who are part of our namesake, are people we admire, not just in a mythological kind of context, but they dealt with real problems. They were put under real strain. They were tested in their faith. They had to show leadership at times when others crumbled. There's another imam, his name is Imam al-Dhahabi. Any of you hear of this Imam Dhahabi. He's a recorder of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's one of the students of Al-Imam Ibn Kathir. Any of you hear of Ibn Kathir? The explainer of the Quran, right? Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Al-Imam Al-Dhahabi is one of the most profound verifiers of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is sahih, which is da'if, and so on. Imam Al-Dhahabi was not a very handsome man. He says that about himself. One of the books he wrote, one of the most valuable books for students of knowledge, is called Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, the biography of the noble individuals in Islamic history. From the Sahaba onwards, up to his generation, everyone who had something to contribute to Islam, he wrote their name and gave their biography and stories of their life. And he includes his own story. He says, I know I'm not a handsome man. I can admit it. But because of my knowledge and my sincerity to Allah, when I wanted to get married, all of the women of my city, they would be very happy to marry me. So I chose the wealthiest, the prettiest, and the most noble of them. I didn't aim low, I aimed high. I went for the top. And he says, after many years of marriage, my wife said to me, she said, Anta wa ana fil Jannah. You and I are definitely going to Jannah. Now that's a strange statement. How do you know? He says, how do you know I'm going to Jannah? She said, it's easy. Allah blessed you with marriage to me. And you've been good to me. So you're definitely going to Jannah. You're a good man, a good husband. You know what it means when your wife says that to you, brothers? Because your wife, when you get married, she's going to know the things outside people don't know. She's going to know whether you really pray Fajr or not. She's going to know how much Quran you read or not. She's going to see, do you make dua and dhikr and tasbih or not. She knows you in your real life, not just what people outside see. So when your wife, inshallah, one day your wife, inshallah, ya Rab. Inshallah, your wife may look you in the face one day and say, because of what I know of you, I am sure in my heart you will enter Jannah. You should be proud. You say, MashaAllah. Imam Shafi'i said, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. He said, but hold on a second. Okay, we know why I'm going to Jannah. How about you? She said, because I accepted your proposal and have been patient. Because he's not very handsome, right? Right? Now could you imagine that Imam writing that about himself? Right? It's amazing. But it's an amazing, account of realism. We look at it, we say Imam al-Dhahabi, right? But look at the frankness that he talks about. There's a wedding I'll be attending soon, inshallah, for Sister Sakinah and Abdul Qayyum this Thursday and Friday. Family friends of mine. And, I was thinking, what am I going to say on the day? I'm going to give us a small 1-minute talk. And I remembered the story of two of the most important judges who lived in the time of the Tabi'een. Al-Imam al-Sha'bi wa Shurayh al-Qadi. He was the chief judge of the Muslim empire. And one day they met and they asked each other, كيف حالك مع زوجتك? How is your life with your wife? He says this to Al-Imam al-Sha'bi. When you look at the Sahih al-Bukhari, you will find almost maybe 50% of all the hadith to the Prophet ﷺ. He's one of the main narrators. He's one of the foundation points in relaying the sunnah to us through Sahih al-Bukhari. He's a foundation in hadith. So he's a man of uprightness. How do you live? How's your life with your wife? How are you? He goes, Wallahi, ya Shurayh. Wallahi, by Allah, from the first day, she taught me lessons. How did she teach you lessons? He said, as soon as we got married, I came to sit next to her. قالت انتظر. Stop. Wait a second. And she said, Inna alhamdulillahi nahmadu. She began to lecture. Inna alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. She's giving khutbah al-Jumu'ah. Right? Hold on. She begins to give me a lecture and she says, of all the women in the world who were prized by their father and mother, I am that one. And had not Allah created men for women and women for men, I wouldn't have married you. I would have stayed with my family. They're rich, they're wealthy, I don't need you. But Allah has joined us together. فَاتَّقِ اللَّهَ فِيَّ. So fear Allah in how you deal with me, because I'll leave you. Right? That's what she's saying. فَأَحْوَجَتْنِي إِلَى الْخُطْبَةِ. Her speech was so long and eloquent, she embarrassed me that I had to give her a lecture. فَقُلْتَ إِنَّ الْحَمْدَ لِلَّهِ نَحْمَدُهُ. So I said to her, إِنَّ الْحَمْدَ لِلَّهِ نَحْمَدُهُ. Because I can't let her give me a talk and I don't give her one back. So now I'm lecturing her. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. And I said, إِنَّكِ قُلْتِ كَلَامًا. You said words. If you adhere to it, you will be the most treasured of women in the world. I will love you, I will treasure you, if you remain in what you promised and what you ask of me. And if we live that life, we will never have any difficulty. And he says, Wallahi ya Shurayh, by Allah, for 20 years I have been married to her. Lam ara minha ma yughdibuni qat. Not once did I see something that upset me from her. Except one time, وَكُنْتُ لَهَا ظَالِمًا. Except once, and I was actually the one who was wrong. It was my fault. That's a powerful statement, right? Look at the union, how it begins. It's funny that, on one's wedding night, they begin to give advice to each other, of a religious nature. But this is really the inner workings of real individuals who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not all about the bling bling and the glamour. I know in Malay culture, I've been to many weddings. Back home in Perth mostly. The 15 wardrobe changes. 16, how many, 15, 16, 17, right? You get tired. Wow, didn't you already wear pink? She's wearing pink again. It's amazing, right? But the start of a foundation of love is built on that promise to each other to govern oneself by the word of Allah and the sunnah of His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Compare that to another one of the imams. He lived with a woman who he hated, and she used to hurt him. She would be, she was abusive in her language. She was difficult in her treatment. She used to put him to the twist. And his friends, others would say, Ya Imam, talliqha, just divorce her. Maybe it's better if you were divorced. He said, no, asbir, I'll be patient. She passes away after 20 years, they're married longer. She passes away. And as people have buried her, people are now starting to go back home. He says, no, don't leave. I want you all to be my witnesses. He says, Ushhidukum, I want you all to witness. Wa ushhidullah, and I make Allah a witness. Anti taliq, I divorce you. They said, what's wrong with this man? She's dead. How are you going to divorce a dead woman? He says, no, you don't understand. She put me too much difficulty in this dunya. I ask Allah not to even join me with her in Jannah. So he divorces her so she can be in Jannah on her own. Right? It shows you the difference between Shuraih al-Qadi and the others. Let's fast forward a little. I was asked to talk about some of the funnier moments that I've experienced in my life, maybe something that I think Khairul has heard them before. He said, tell them about your exam. And really, I was a student at the University of Toronto. I was in my second year. And as you guys know, I was telling you yesterday, I was doing geology, chemistry. And I got really interested in forensic science, you know, CSI and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, oh, I'll do a minor in CSI kind of stuff, forensic science. And initially, you're allowed to do the first 2 years of it, and then they wash out, they kicked me out. They said, no, sorry, Mr. Ibrahim, after your psychological profile, we can't have you on, you're not fit for the job. There's certain criteria. They're right, I don't like blood. So I don't know what I was thinking, right? So here I am in this forensic science exam, and I'm taking forensic science he's still teaching. You can Google him. University of Toronto, Professor Mellenby. And he's the department head. And it's Forensics 239, the course. And we came to a module about forensic psychology. And I had an exam, and it coincided with Jumu'ah prayer. And I was asked to be the imam of Jumu'ah at a faraway masjid from where the university campus is. 20-minute drive at least, even if I'm super quick. So I call up the masjid and say, Brother Yahya, this is really, we have no one else, you have to come. I said, Ikhwan, I got an exam, please, brother. I said, okay, let me talk to my professor. I ring up, can I come and see you when you're out? Yes, come, Mr. Ibrahim. I went. I said, listen, the exam starts at 1, but we have Friday prayers at 1. And because I'm praying at a mosque in Mississauga, which is a little bit of a distance from where we are, it's going to take me at least 25, 30 minutes to get here. And the exam, it's a 50-minute exam from 1 to 1:50. It means I'm only going to have 20 minutes left. Do you mind if I take it from 12, and as soon as I'm finished, the next set of students will come in. I won't be able to talk to it. He goes, Mr. Ibrahim, we're not here to meet your, blah, 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 blah. Either you're there or you're not. Whatever time you have left is the time you have. We have no extensions. And I said, all right, thank you. And I thought, it's okay. I'm going to go do my Jumu'ah. And after Jumu'ah, I said, Salaam alaikum, Salaam alaikum. I was running, jumping over people, got in the car, flying. And I got to the university, double parked my car. I said, if I get a ticket, it's okay. Just threw my car. And I ran, and I got there 1:40 something, 10 minutes left. And he smiles at me as he gives me right? You know that smile, right? Oh, thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you. And I sat down, and I thought, okay, look, let me do as many, and it's multiple choice. You know the multiple choice card that you put through the computer that scans it? Do you use those here? Yeah. You just fill in the circles? Yeah. I read the questions. It's a psychology and psychiatric component. I read it. First answer, C. I was like, cool. Second one, C. It's like, oh, that's all right. Third one, C. I was like, something's not right. But I don't have time to go back and read it. Fourth one, C. 1 minute left. Fifth one, C. And I thought, 30 seconds left. I just put C, 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 C. 80 questions. And I just put the whole thing C. We come back after a fortnight. We have a holiday after exams. Come back after a fortnight. And Mel B is red in the face. He looks like a dinosaur. Ready to bite my head off. And I'm saying, I don't know what's happening. And he goes, this was supposed to be part of your psychological component, and we wanted to do something different this year. We made all the answers C to see who would doubt themselves. Because you're not going to put in C for 80 questions. But because I never read the questions, I just put C, 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 C. And I said, Wallahi, that's from Allah, right? 100%. And when he gave me back that exam, and it had 100, and I'm sitting there, and he goes, We won't be doing this again because, certain things happen that cause statistical irregularities. I was like, yeah, that's Allah, brother. You keep your statistics, man. Right? 100%. And honestly, when I tell that, I honestly say it in reality, in my heart of heart, in my belief, that is Allah helping an individual who chooses something for Allah, right? And I got an A in that course because that exam was a 40-mark exam, 40% of my final. And I knew I was being graded I was still doing well. I'd get back my exam, B+, when it really is an A paper. It really was A. But I get like a B+. You get that sometimes, right? And that exam put me over the top. I was like, yeah, that's how we do it. Muslim style, brother. Don't you go against Jumu'ah, Yeah, so things like that happen in life all the time. And university, you guys, many of you are university students, you know that university is a strange place to be in. I have a person who I met maybe 10 years ago. Tall guy. When I first went to Australia to lecture about Islam, I was there on a tour, and there was this tall, 6-foot-something Skip. He's like Skippy. He's an Aussie, white Australian, 15th generation Australian, if there is. And I said, oh, he goes, Salaam alaikum. I said, how are you? He goes, my name's Abu Bakr. I was like, Abu Bakr, mashallah. When did you become Muslim? He goes, I've been Muslim for like 4 or 5 years now, alhamdulillah. I said, what brought you to Islam? He goes, it's kind of a long story. And now we were getting on a flight. So he tells me a story on the flight. It's one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. I encouraged him to make a video, like to lecture it and get it recorded and put on YouTube. So you can actually find it, his version on YouTube. He leaves some things out just because, Anyway, I'll tell you the real story. Abu Bakr was at Monash University in Melbourne. He goes, I saw this hot girl. You know it's going to be a juicy story when it starts like that, right? I saw this girl. She looked nice. So I walked over to her. I said, hey, how you doing? She goes, hey, who are you? He goes, oh, no, I'm just wanted to say hi. What's your name? She goes, don't talk to me. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm a Muslim. He goes, yeah, me too. She's like, what? Now this is before 9/11, right? Like Islam wasn't, like everyone knows Islam, like kind of thing. He's like, yeah, me too. She's like, you're not Muslim. He goes, how do you know? She goes, I know if you're Muslim. He goes, okay, I want to be Muslim. How about you make me Muslim? She goes, listen, I'm not going to continue with this conversation, right? If you really want to be Muslim, you'd go to the mosque. He goes, where's the mosque? She goes, in Coburg. He goes, oh, okay, yeah, I know where that. Oh, yeah, I know where that is. That building with that thing, the minaret, that thing. She goes, yeah, that's the one. So she ran away. He goes, like, she ran. And he goes, every now and then I'd see her from a distance. I'd say, hi, Muslim, right? That kind of thing. And every time she'd see me, she'd just run. He goes, and one night, I thought, what is this whole Muslim thing? This is before Google. He said, let me just go down and see. He goes, it was like late at night. It was like 10. He said, I'll do a drive-by just to see like what's happening. He goes, I drove, and there were like 1,000 cars. There was like 5,000 people in that mosque at 10 o'clock at night. And he goes, I said to myself, wow, these Muslims are really dedicated like people, man. Let me just park and see what are they doing. So he walks, in. Now, if you've been to Melbourne, that area, Coburg and Preston, that Preston Mosque, there's some brothers there who look rough. Big beards, ex-boxers, football players who just look rough, but soft like marshmallows on the inside, right? He goes, I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, I had like 10 guys with big beards looking at me and surround me. And one of them came up and said, hey, how you going, mate? Where you from? I said, whoa, okay, who are these guys? He goes, I'm Andrew. I just wanted to come here to be Muslim. He goes, I said that naturally. I didn't like really mean it. I just came to be Muslim. He goes, oh, that's good. He goes, take your shoes off. I go, take my shoes off? So I took my shoes off, and he goes, I just did what they said because I didn't want them to kill me. So I took my shoes off, and they're all surrounding me, and they're all talking about Arabic kind of stuff. And the next thing I know, I enter this big hall, and everyone turns around and looks at me, and they go, he's come to be Muslim. And everyone's like, Takbir! Now, it is the second night of Ramadan. He goes, they were singing, but the guy stopped singing. And they kept pushing me, and everyone's like touching me and stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the front, and I'm looking at all these people, and they're all smiling at me. And the guy says, repeat after me. So I said, okay, what am I saying? He goes, say, Ashhadu. So I say, Ashhadu. He goes, and as soon as I say that, everyone's like, Takbir! And people just start kissing me, hugging me and kissing me. And I was like, okay, I just want to get out of here before I die. Right? So I get kissed and I move back. He goes, I get out of the mosque. And as soon as I get there, I see that girl. She's looking down because the second story is for women. And she goes, you are Muslim. He goes, yeah, I told you. Right? So he walks out. And they gave him a Quran. And he goes, I went home. I'm like, I don't know what just happened. He goes, I got home. And I put the Quran on the shelf. And I didn't look at it for a week or two. And I thought to myself, well, let me just, open it, see what's in it. And he goes, I opened it randomly, and I started to read. And I don't know how long I was reading for. I was reading for a long time in English. Just a long time. It was just mesmerizing. And something told me in my heart, that's it. This is it. He said, so I said out loud, okay, God, if this is the truth and you want me to be Muslim, give me a sign. He goes, if I saw an ant crawling, I would have said, that's a sign. Nothing happened. He goes, I thought the curtains would swirl. He goes, anything. Nothing. So he goes, after about 5-10 minutes of waiting, I said, okay, God, I'm going to give you 5 more minutes. And he literally said, I said, okay, I'll wait another 5 minutes. He goes, nothing happened. And then he turned back to where he had stopped reading. And the next ayah says, don't you see in the order of the heavens and the earth and the creation that is within yourself a sign to mankind? And he goes, it was like someone electrocuted me. It was like I got a jolt. Whoa, that's the sign. And he said, I went back to the mosque and I told them, look, I want to be Muslim like properly. And he goes, they sat me in the office, they talked to me, and I became Muslim. Now here's the thing. A year later, he asks for that same girl's hand in marriage and now has 4 children, mashallah. Right? It's amazing, right? Never, ever, 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 ever underestimate the contact you have with people. Never underestimate, everyone's asking about da'wah and stuff. That's da'wah, right? You know your limit. No, I don't do that kind of garbage. I'm a Muslim. What's that mean? Oh, you want to find out? Go find out over there. I'm not going to give you dawah. Oh, here's my number. Call me. No, that's not dawah, brother or sister, right? That's not it. You have limits. Go to the mosque. Allah opens hearts who have hardened and makes them soft, right? People come to Islam. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. When you see the victory of Islam come, وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ, you will see people flooding into the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, into the faith of Islam and submission to Allah. Enough stories? One more? One more story? Why not? We'll give you a Malaysia story. No. I'll give you a spooky story. Because we're at a campfires and... I was a young guy. I'm still young, by the way, but I was a young guy. Younger, yes. I was about 17, maybe the age of some of you guys. At the age of 17, alhamdulillah, I was maybe 17, 18, maybe even 19, maybe. I was still a teen. And I was privileged enough, alhamdulillah, because of my Arabic background and because I had a keen desire to learn, and because it was an opportune time in North America that there were people who were coming from different places around the world to talk about Islam, scholars. And because the people who translated for the scholars either had a really thick English accent, they didn't know English well, or they knew English but didn't know Arabic well. So all of a sudden they say, hey, Yahya, you know the Quran, you've memorized the Quran, you speak Arabic, you know, you're beginning to study Hadith. Why don't you translate for these people? So I became a really sought after speaker. For about the first 5 years of my Islamic education, it was just basically translating for these big dignitaries. Whenever the Mufti of Saudi Arabia would come. So I got to meet these people who I normally would never, ever have had any access to. And I was in New York City translating for one of the students of Sheikh Al-Albani. I don't know if you've heard Sheikh Al-Albani, who he is. He is one of the scholars of Hadith. May Allah have mercy on him. Now, one of his students, he's a PhD, a doctor in Hadith and in Quranic sciences. His name is Abu Anas Muhammad Musa Nasr. Now, Muhammad Musa Nasr is one of probably the top raqi, people who read Quran to cure a person of spiritual problems, of black magic, of jinn, and things like that. Now, I didn't know that. And after translating, for a few days in New York, one of the most prominent Muslim physicians in the city, he's a very well-known man, he used to attend, he came and he said, you need to tell Dr. Musa he needs to come to dinner at my house. I want to host you and all these scholars from Saudi Arabia, all these people from Egypt who have come for this conference. They must have dinner at my house. So I told them, they said, okay, we'd like to come. And when we pull up to this, it's like a mansion really. We pull up to this mansion and we all start getting out of the cars that the man has sent. Dr. Abu Anas, Dr. Musa, he says, I know why this guy asked us here. Now, at that moment, I should have got back in the car. But I didn't know. I said, all right. I didn't understand what that meant. So all the other shuyukh, they looked at him and they said, Ya Abu Anas, none of your activity today. Let us have a peaceful dinner and let's get out of here. We don't want any funny business. And I don't know what's happening. I'm this shy, innocent little puppy, 17 years old. I say, all right, well, I don't know what these guys are talking about. So we go, and there was, this large entrance area, couches and everything. And I sat on the ground right behind them. So you had, I think, Sudais and all these sheikhs were there that day. So I'm sitting on the ground, translating and stuff. And Abu Anas tells me, ask doctor, the doctor, to bring his son. Now I go, okay. who's his son? How do you know his son? Like, you've never spoken to this man before. As soon as I say to the doctor, Abu Anas wants to speak to your son, he starts crying. He says, how does he know about my son? I said, I don't know, man. I'm just hanging out. I don't know. How do you know? I don't know. He starts crying. He goes, yes, the reason I brought you here, tell him, is that my son, I heard that you're very good at helping people, and my son needs your help to read Quran on him. He's got a little bit of a thing bothering him. And Abu Musa goes, yes, I know. I can feel it. I was like, feel it? What's he feeling? What's happening? So I'm sitting there, hanging out. In enters this 18-year-old young man. He looks healthy enough. And he says, come. So I tell the guy, just come over. The Sheikh wants to say Salaam Alaikum. And the Sheikh's sitting on the couch. As soon as this young guy comes, the Sheikh gets up off his seat, grabs him by the chest. And this boy just goes limp. Now I'm about to faint. Because I'm like, uh-oh, it's going down. What's happening? Something's going on, What's happening? This young guy just goes like this. And I'm like, now if you see Abu Anas, he's a big guy, right? He's holding this guy up like this from his shirt collar. And he goes, Yahya, hold my arm. I think he needs me to support him. So as soon as I touch Sheikh Muhammad Musa's arm, I feel it's as if razors are clawing at my skin. Something wants to debone me. And I let go and scream. And run. I just start running. And the Sheikh's holding it and he looks at me running. He says, if you're scared, leave. I say, I know, brother, I'm going. So I go, I just need to make wudu, man. So I run, I go to the bathroom, I make wudu. I'm reading every verse in the Quran that I know simultaneously. And I look through the door, and he's reading Quran on this boy. And I said, I ain't going back in there. And I literally didn't. He told me, if you're scared, don't come in. Go sit in the car. They actually brought me dinner in the car. I sat there the whole night. I said, they can find another translator, man. That's one of my funnier moments. And I mentioned this story for two reasons. One is, as we live in this world, there are things we see that are tangible, that are real. You can knock on them. They're there. But equal and parallel to this world, in our world, in with us now, don't be scared. There is a world that you don't see. A world of angels and a world of jinn. All of it is governed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our trust is always in Allah. So we don't fear anything like that, right? So don't have any nightmares or, we're not going to camp with Brother Yahya anymore, right? No. Once you learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored human beings and has given us a protection in the Quran and in our faith, you become fearless. And that's something that I learned from that incident. I was spoken to by the Sheikh. He said, listen, don't ever be afraid of anything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your fear cannot be of anything ever except the creator of the heavens and the earth subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hopefully, inshallah, some of the stories that we shared today, although some are amusing, they all have a real sense in establishing elements of our aqeedah, of our belief as Muslims, in what we see, in what we don't see, in the love that we have of the ancient scholars, in relying upon Allah and the truth of our commitment to Him Azza wa Jal. I hand you over to Brother Khairul, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت